Let me ask you a question. What if the biggest lie wasn't the one he told you, but the one you told yourself to feel safe? I'm not a detective. I'm just someone who's seen enough, lived enough, and learned the hard truths about how men operate, how they think, how they lie, and yes, how they cheat. And today, I'm here to hand you something more powerful than proof. I'm giving you perspective, because if a man ever says these 6 words to you, it's not what it looks like, then you need to know he's cheating. Period. Truth doesn't always come out in a grand confession. Real life isn't a dramatic movie scene with tearful breakdowns and background music. No, in reality, the truth leaks slowly, quietly through patterns. Not words, patterns. We spend so much time waiting for the moment he'll finally fall to his knees and say, "You caught me. I've been unfaithful." But cheaters don't confess because they feel guilty. They confess because they've been caught so badly, there's no escape route left. But long before that moment ever arrives, the truth has already been whispering to you through the cracks, through subtle changes you didn't want to believe. That it's not about lipstick on the collar anymore. It's about how he used to text you during lunch. Now he doesn't. He used to tell you where he was going. Now he gets defensive if you ask. You used to leave the house feeling loved. Now, you leave with a weight in your chest. That gut feeling. That's not paranoia. That's intuition. Your spirit alerting you before your brain can explain it. Women are born with emotional radar, a kind of spiritual Wi-Fi. You don't always have screenshots, but you always have signs. His phone used to be carelessly tossed on the couch. Now it's glued to his hand or goes to the bathroom with him. He laughs at messages you'll never see. He starts guarding that device like it holds state secrets. That's not an accident. That's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. And when it comes to cheating, patterns speak louder than words. Men who cheat don't lie with just their mouths. They lie with their routines. They lie with silence. They lie with distraction. And when you notice it, when your soul picks up these signals, they gaslight you. Why are you being so insecure? Why do you always assume the worst? That's not love talking. That's manipulation. And if you're not careful, you'll begin to doubt yourself more than you doubt him. That's how cheaters win. Not with lies, but with confusion. They plant just enough uncertainty to make you silence your own truth. But listen, a man can fake it. Smile. He can fake affection. But he can't fake consistency, because his life will always reflect his loyalty or his lack of it. Watch how his energy shifts, how he stops asking about your day, how he scrolls instead of engaging, how passion turns into avoidance or worse, obligation. And no, cheating doesn't begin in the bedroom. It begins with emotional withdrawal. It begins the moment he starts investing attention in someone else. Someone who's giving him the reaction he used to seek from you. That's why patterns matter, because the heart always moves first. The body just follows. But here's the part that hurts the most. The truth in patterns will never scream louder than the lies you wish were real. You'll want to believe he's just tired, just stressed, just busy, and he'll give you every excuse to believe that. But deep down, you already know, because you've felt this shift. You've watched this slow fade. You've traced the outline of a love that's slipping through your fingers, and yet you're still waiting for the confession, waiting for the words, waiting for a truth you already live with every day. But what if that moment never comes? What if the only proof you'll ever have is the pattern? Maybe you ignored the signs. Or maybe, and this hurts more, you saw them clearly, but you loved him so much that you chose to stay blind. That's the deeper wound. Not just that he changed, but that you had to change too, twisting yourself to hold on to someone who was already slipping away. That's what patterns do to us. They say what he won't. They speak louder than his lies. They teach you to read between the lines, between what he says and what he does. You remember when he used to light up the moment you walked into their room. Now, he barely notices when you leave it. He used to talk about the future, your future. Now he won't even commit to plans, past dinner. Once, he protected your heart. Now, he plays games with it dot and null. That's not a rough patch. That's not just him having a bad week. That is a pattern. And once you've seen it enough times, it's no longer about hoping for a confession. It's about accepting the truth you already know. Because if you listen carefully, a man's words will eventually betray him. People always look for evidence in behavior, in phone records, in receipts. But I'm telling you, the loudest clues often come from the words that slip right out of his mouth. A man can try to hide what he does, but he can't control every sentence. The truth always leaks, especially when the heart isn't clean. When a man is loyal, his words and actions match. He says what he means, and he proves it. You don't feel confused. You don't need to decode his language. You feel peace. But when he's cheating, everything shifts. His language gets vague. His tone turns defensive. His answers come wrapped in just enough holes to keep you second-guessing. He starts talking in circles, over-explaining simple things, giving answers that don't match the question. That's how lies work. They either say too much or not enough. Pay attention to how he answers everyday questions. Before, you'd ask, "What did you do today?" And he'd tell you everything. The places, the people, the little moments. Now you ask the same question and all you get is nothing, just stuff. That's not a boring day. That's a man rehearsing silence. He's mentally editing his day before he speaks, trimming out the parts he doesn't want you to hear. And then there's that word, chilling. If you start hearing that too often, listen closely. "I was just chilling" is a filler. It's a cover-up. It's the verbal duct tape for a timeline that's falling apart. A man who's got nothing to hide doesn't need vague answers. He can tell his story clearly. No hesitation. no edits. But when the guilt starts to build, the language changes in other ways too. He starts making everything your fault. You ask a simple question and suddenly he flips it on you. Why are you always tripping? You're just being insecure. That's not just dismissive, it's a tactic, a way to shut you down so he doesn't have to open up. It's not that you're crazy, it's that he's guilty and scared to face it. Then come the contradictions. One day, he tells you he was at the gym late. Next time you bring it up, he says he was at his boy's house. The stories don't match. And when you point it out, he snaps. You're always looking for something, but you're not. You're just finally listening with clarity. Because here's the thing, lying takes memory. Truth only takes honesty. When a man is cheating, he starts inserting strange new phrases into your conversations. Things like, I just need space, or I feel like we're not connecting like we used to. Now, these might sound like emotional growth on this surface, but often they're the early steps of an exit strategy. He's testing the waters, seeing how you'll react, slowly detaching, word by word. You'll also notice his language when he talks about the future. A faithful man says we. A man who's pulling away starts saying I'm thinking about moving. I might take that job. I just need to do me for a while. That isn't just a shift in grammar. It's a shift in mindset. He's emotionally distancing, and his words show it long before his actions do. Another red flag. How quickly he changes this subject when you ask something direct. You ask where he was suddenly. He's reminding you of something you did wrong 3 months ago. That's not a real conversation. That's a diversion. He's redirecting. So, well, in fact, that before you know it, you're the one apologizing, while he's the one doing wrong. It becomes a maze of words, and if you're not careful, you lose yourself in it. He knows he's slipping. He knows he's breaking your trust, even if you won't admit it out loud. That's when you've got to stop being charmed by what he says and start listening to why he says it. Is he trying to reassure you, or is he just trying to convince himself that he's still a good man? Because let me tell you something, when a man is truly loyal, he doesn't need to constantly remind you. You just feel it. You feel secure without needing the sales pitch. You feel safe without the promises. But when a man starts slipping, his words shift into performance mode. You'll hear phrases that sound responsible, even admirable on this surface. I've been working late. I just need time to think. I'm focusing on myself right now. Sounds mature, right? But look closer. It's called for distance, and that distance has a reason. His mouth is working overtime, throwing out explanations, offering reassurances, promising change. But the actions don't match, because deep down, he knows his morals are fading, and the only thing keeping this relationship from falling apart is the script he's memorized that when a man is cheating, you'll notice how quickly he reacts to your suspicion, but not with calm. He overreacts. You ask, "Who's texting you?" And instead of answering, he fires back with, "Why don't you trust me? Are we really doing this again?" That's not him trying to clear things up. That's him trying to shut you down fast because you're getting too close to the truth. And he needs to throw you off the trail. Then there's the future. He'll talk big about taking you on a trip, building a life, starting something new together. But none of it actually happens. It's all talk, all projection. Because if he can keep your eyes on the future, maybe you won't start asking questions about the present. But here's the truth. A man with solid morals doesn't need to sell you dreams. He builds with you in real time. He shows up. He's present. Not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, fully a cheating man, though he's somewhere else in his mind, in someone else's inbox, anywhere but here. And while you're trying to hold on, he's using his words like smoke, just enough to distract you from the fire he's setting behind your back. Then come the inconsistencies. When a man's mouth moves faster than his morals, this story always changes, just a little. You ask about something he said last week, and suddenly, it's different. "I thought you said you were with Brandon." "Oh no, I meant I saw Brandon after I left Kesh's cookout. But I didn't stay long." See? Subtle shifts. But that's what happens when you're trying to keep track of lies. They start to slip because they were never grounded in proof to begin with. And here's another trick. He turns small mistakes into massive diversions. You say, "Why didn't you call me back?" He replies, "I can't ever do anything right in your eyes." That's not communication. That's deflection. He's not addressing the missed call. He's avoiding accountability altogether. And that's what happens when guilt gets loud. He creates noise, so you stop hearing the silence underneath. But it's in that silence where the truth lives. Now, let's talk about fake vulnerability. He suddenly starts opening up more, telling you about his childhood trauma, how he never felt love growing up, how commitment scares him. And sure, those things may be real, but timing matters. If he only opens up like this when you're pulling away, or when you've caught him in something shady, then it's not connection, it's control. It's not intimacy, it's manipulation. He's using emotion to pull you back in, to soften your heart, to buy more time, all while his behavior stays exactly the same. And finally, listen closely to how often he says, "Trust me." You'll hear it more from a guilty man than an innocent one, because when a man is walking right, you just do trust him. You don't need the reminders. But the man who's messing up, he'll keep repeating it like a spell. "Trust me, it's not like that. Trust me, you're the only one I want. Trust me, I'd never do that to you." But trust doesn't come from repetition. It comes from consistency. Winner, his words flowing, but the behavior isn't matching. That's not love. That's a cover-up. He keeps talking because he's practiced. He sounds smooth because he's had to use those lines more than once. And if he can keep you emotionally tangled, if he can keep you listening, maybe, just maybe, you won't start seeing. He talks about loyalty but moves in secrecy. He talks about love but hides behind lies. His mouth stays busy because his heart is somewhere else. And deep down, he knows the only thing holding this illusion together is the performance he delivers every time he opens his mouth.